Last Monday, I had a great comics mail day. Much of it was unexpected. So I just thought I'd talk about what I got. So I was chatting with Jeremy, who goes under Comics Elitist on Instagram, and we were talking about Straight Toasters because he has this beautiful graffiti comics edition, like hardcover, signed by Bill Sienkiewicz, limited 2,000 copies that I'm a huge Bill Sienkiewicz fan. So we were talking, and he asked me if I ever read Straight Toasters. I said no, I never got around to reading it. So he had an extra set of issues 1 through 3 laying around. So he was kind enough to send to me. He didn't even want money for the shipping. He just sent it to me. It was really nice of him. And so I'm starting to discover this era of late 80s and 90s non-superhero Bill Sienkiewicz that I'm really starting to dig, where he did a lot of painted work. Um, as recently read his Hendrix book and just really enjoy this era of his. So I'm really excited to get this, and issue 4 is pretty easy to find. But he was very generous, and he threw in some additional books. Let me grab them here. He sent me a 6-issue mini-series. I guess a story based on the Airtight Garage. This one's called The Elsewhere Prince. It's published by Epic Comics, published in 1990. And the stories are by Moebius. The script is by RJM Lofficer, and the art is by Eric Shanower. And I can't remember where I've seen that name before, but I've seen that name. So the art obviously isn't Moebius, but it's kind of like Moebius-esque. Like it kind of looks like Moebius. So reading the story here looks like it'll be pretty interesting, pretty fun at least. And then the back matter here has some, I guess, some background information on the miniseries. And then there's some Moebius drawings here. And then there's these little comics here that are translated in English, 2 pages of the Major. And I'm curious to see I'm curious if this was ever collected, or if the only place you can ever find these in English are in these little, in these issues. It's kind of interesting. I wasn't expecting that. And the back cover is just a plain color, except it has a little pencil and ink drawing by Moebius. And so there's 6 issues in all. I never knew this existed. So there is some Moebius stuff here, but like I said, this looks a lot like Blueberry, actually. That style. Not knocking it. But again, there's more back matter and just another 2-pager from Moebius. So it's kind of cool having these little stories that I don't know if they've ever been collected anywhere else. Same here. Just more of the history from the Airtight Garage. I'm sure this stuff is collected somewhere in French, but it's the English stuff that's the hard part to find. Same thing here, sort of Moebius-like, but not quite Moebius, but that's okay. If you're gonna get Moebius to do a regular comic. But you see these little bits of art here. This looks so cool. I'm not sure who does the covers here. ES, so I guess it's Eric Shanower, so I guess it's the interior artist is doing these kind of painted covers. More work here, and more Moebius stuff here. Very cool. And another end of the 6 issues with some of the heroes wearing like clothing that is like impossible to wear. And then at the end, it says, hey, listen, in 1991, we're going to have our next miniseries, The Onyx Overlord. I actually found like a couple of issues of these in the dollar bins. I want to say last year or the year before at UltraCon. But here's another little wordless little Moebius story in here. He's starting just to draw and use like, it looks like colored pencil instead of just formal coloring and inking, but it looks pretty good. And then he was even more generous because he threw in some issues of a series that I've read some of, but not all of, Mr. X. So I'm familiar with Mr. X, written by Dean Motter, and I found the trade with the first, I think, 4 issues about a year and a half ago, and I read that. This comic, if you know about it, but if you don't know, what makes this comic interesting is that the first, I believe, 6 issues were drawn by Jaime and Gilbert Hernandez. This is from, and I'm going to give you the year so we can keep our timeline straight. 1984, so this just came out. This is probably, this came out at the time where Love and Rockets started coming out. So I don't know if they did this before, if they were doing this early on alongside Love and Rockets, but this is early Jaime and Gilbert. And it's kind of interesting seeing them both work on a comic, but you can definitely see that there's a lot of that Jaime Hernandez style. And I believe they did the first 6 issues or so. That's issue 1. This is issue 2. And then this is issue 6. And issue 6, I think after issue 4 or 5, the Hernandez brothers left. And then the person taking over the art chores is Seth. And I'm a huge Seth fan. I love Seth. So this is very early Seth before he kind of developed his own style. You can see some of it here, but this is $1985. This is very early Seth. So you can kind of see his style here a little bit. And then going forward to number 8, he's still on the book. And you can see that it's still more, he still hasn't gotten his style in there. It's more comic booky like. Not that it's bad, it's good, but it's just, he's developing as an artist. This is issue 10. And issue 10 is drawn by Seth, but the cover by Bill Sienkiewicz, 1986. So now you can start seeing here that classic Seth style that I know and love very well. One of my favorites. And then you go to issue 11. I don't know how many issues this ran. I'm sorry. Not the best historian. But this is, you can see now here that he's really starting to get into Seth mode. So definitely going to look for these in the dollar bins, $2 bins where I find them. It's kind of also funny with the time because this was 1987 and there's a big ad for Howard Chaykin's Black Kiss, which at the time was that really scandalous type of book that had to be sold in the back of the behind the counter and all that. And by today it would be kind of lame by today's standards. Also, Yummy Firm, which was done by Vortex Comics before it went to Drawn and Quarterly. Just really interesting time capsule of comics. But yeah, you can definitely see that Seth style. So I'm really excited to read these and also go on the hunt for some of the missing issues. So I thought that was it. But then in the mail, I got the final issue from my subscription. This is from Loading the Cannon. This is his Z6 Season 2. He did a promotion or subscription where you paid like $12, $13, $14, and every month you get a zine in the mail, come in a little envelope, like a letter. And some of it was original work, some of it was reprints, but most of it was original work and all types of different original work and reprints of some artists that weren't well known but are really good. Just really interesting stuff. So this last one is a reprint of a comic called The Daredevils. And what's fun about it is that it has this story called Grit. And it's a satire of Daredevil. And it's written by Alan Moore, penciled by Mike Collins, and inked by Mark Farmer. And this is 1983. So this is Alan Moore doing a satire of Daredevil, Frank Miller Daredevil, back for Marvel UK. I never knew this thing even existed. I'm going to really enjoy reading this one. And then also, there's a little zine that's Mr. Rogers Focus. Is kind of interesting. It's by Ben Passmore. So that also came in. So I was really excited to get this. I think Matthew from 3T. And if you want to know who 3T is, that's 3T. Told to Tell. You can find him on Instagram. He's a micro publisher. I featured his work before. I think he's a great publisher. He just seems like he's really far ahead of like most people as far as what comics they're kind of reading, and maybe who's going to be like a future big person in the independence and small press comic scene. Excuse me. But anyway, I would definitely reach out if you want something interesting but of high quality. I would definitely reach out to Matthew, and a really honorable guy. He takes. I don't think he takes himself seriously, but he takes everything he does relating to comics very seriously. Real pro. And then I thought that was it. But then I received this. I received a comp copy of Die With Your Mask On from the brain trust behind Canon, Alex Eklund and Colin Blanchett. Comes Die With Your Mask On, which is a superhero focused comic that is similar to Canon as far as the tone and the look and the feel, but it deals with superheroes. But this isn't like, Ray Chip Zdarsky's Batman run, or is Zeb Wells really that bad of a Spider-Man writer, which he is, but those kind of dumb things, or how much is your collection worth. This issue features a lot of Rick Veitch, someone who is still working on superheroes and deconstructing the superhero. Even though he's been in the game for more than 4 decades, he's still really forward thinking. They touch on some of the old work he did with Swamp Thing and all that he's famous for, but they really talk a lot about his self-published work and his print-on-demand Amazon stuff. And it starts here, and for disclaimer, I am a contributor to Canon and to Die With Your Mask On. I don't have an article in this issue, I have an article in the next one. But has a really interesting, good interview with Rick Veitch. Really was impressed with him, because a lot of times these old guys, and I'm an old guy too, I don't think he's much older than I am. Well, he's a few years older than I am, but he's still older. A lot of these guys are stuck in the past. They want to do stuff the way that was done in the old days and that stuff. But you can see that he's still very forward thinking with a lot of the stuff he does. It was really refreshing. I like when these guys have been in the game a long time, and that's any kind of art, are still looking at trying to do new things and to move forward. So this interview was a great interview between him and Colin. I really enjoyed it. He seems like a nice guy. He seems like a very intelligent guy. He's not using this to it's not like a Todd McFarlane interview where it's just basically self-promotion the whole time. He's actually giving an interview and answering questions. Followed up with a reading guide by Colin, maybe some of his greatest hits. So they talk about the Swamp Thing run, 1963, and his Aquaman run, but also some of the other things he did, like, the King Hell, I'm going to say Heroica. So there's that. There's also more articles featuring on this whole world that Rick Veitch has created. Really nice art. And then we have some other stories. There's somebody, because a lot of the focus of this book is like, pick something obscure and talk about it if you want. Just basically talk about anything you want. So someone mentions Rick Corbin Spectre story that he did. Somebody else talks about a story by David Lasky, who did a James Joyce comic, and it was basically like taking panels and scenes from existing Kirby comics from the 60s. I never knew this thing existed, but it was pretty interesting. This is just kind of like, and then somebody, and then Ryan Carey, who does a lot of work on social media, newsletter, has got a big presence, does an article on Darkseid. It was a good book. I was really happy to get this. I think Canon is a great magazine. I think Die With Your Mask On is in that same vein. If you want to read about comics and maybe you don't want to read the Comics Journal, you know, everybody that writes and contributes is doing it on a volunteer basis. So we're basically, I mean, it's edited, but we're basically given the, you know, freedom to do what we want to do as long as you pitch an idea and they like it. So you're just seeing a lot of, I think, a lot of articles that are like passion projects. So that, at least the one with mine was something that I've wanted to explore for 40 years about Bill Sienkiewicz. So it was really great that I could actually made the time to kind of go back and revisit some comics. And when you see the article, you'll know what it's about. But I think you're gonna see a lot of that, and I think it comes through. So that was really it. It was a really great mail day. Unexpected generosity from Colin, unexpected generosity from Jeremy, and unexpected last issue of this subscription by Matthew from 3T. So it was a really good day, and it was just really nice to get comics in the mail. I think there's something fun about getting comics in the mail, and expectedly a lot of unexpected stuff. So hope you enjoyed all that, and thanks.